Hey guys, it's Tina and I am back, and I thought this would be a helpful and fun video for those of you who have been interested in trying out the latest and greatest palette from Urban Decay. It's their Urban Decay Naked Smoky Palette, and it is the latest in their lineup of their Naked palettes. So you have the original Naked palette, the NAKED2, the NAKED3, the Naked Basics. You pretty much have a bunch of palettes from Urban Decay, and some of you may have a couple of these already in your collection, and you may be interested in trying out a couple more because they're still on the market, they're still available. And there's also the Urban Decay Black palette and the Smoked palette, which have been discontinued, and they were discontinued because, hello, they were coming out with the latest and greatest, which is kind of an incorporation of some of these shades as well. And they also have a couple of repeat shades in the Naked Smoky palette from the Vice palette, the original one, which I do not have and will discuss, and then the Vice 2. So there are 3 repeat shades. 2 are from the original Vice palette and 1 is from the Vice 2 palette, and then there are 9 brand new shades available. However, they look a little similar to some shades in existing palettes, and we're gonna go into some swatches to show you the differences and similarities so you can kind of gauge whether you wanna pick up the Urban Decay Smoky palette, because it's all the rage right now, and I know it can be overwhelming, and this will give you an idea of the shades that are in the palettes, both this palette and the other palettes in the lineup, and you can check it out if you are interested. So this is going to be a long video, so let's jump into it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette up against the existing Naked palettes on the market. So we do have the original Naked palette, the NAKED2 and the NAKED3, as well as 2 of the smoky palettes from Urban Decay that have been discontinued. And I also have the Vice 2 palette here, where there's a repeat shade from the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. The Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette does have 12 shades, as all the Naked palettes do, and there are 9 brand new shades in the palette, as well as 3 repeat shades. So the shades Armor and Black Market are from the original Vice palette, which I do not have, unfortunately, but if you do have that palette in your collection, just do know that there are 2 shades in here, again, Armor and Black Market, that are repeat shades from the original Vice palette. And then from the Vice 2 palette, we have the shade Radar, which is repeated in the Smoky palette. So we're going to take a look at each of the palettes individually, and we're going to do some swatches to do some comparison, so you can have an idea of the colors that are in the palette up against other palettes that you may have in your collection, and, you know, to see if this is a palette that you truly want to take the splurge on. So first off, I wanted to mention the packaging. The Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette is in a brand new packaging. It's different from the other Naked palettes, and it is all plastic, hard plastic, with a different smoked design. It does still have a magnetic closure, so it does just snap fit. And the magnet is pretty strong and secure, so this is going to hold your palette securely closed. And then inside it does have the slot for the double-ended brush. In the lid we have a full-sized mirror. Urban Decay Naked 2 and 3 have the same full-sized mirror. The original Naked palette does not have a full-size mirror. The major difference is that this palette has a hinge in the lid, so you can rotate the mirror a full 180 degrees, even a little bit more, and you can angle it to whatever angle you want, so you can actually make this mirror usable. Versus the other palettes, those palettes had a mirror that just flopped over, so it wasn't able to be tilted, it didn't hold up by itself, so it wasn't very usable or practical. So that's the major difference in this palette packaging. So let's just take a quick look at the overall Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. On this side you'll see matte transition shades, so blend-in shades, and then in the center we have more smoky tones, so we have a black and a purple. Then we have more gunmetal silver shades, a taupe, and some bronzy shades on this end. And we're going to compare this to the other palettes, and then we'll get into some swatches. The first palette up is the Naked palette, the original Naked palette. And right off the bat, I can see that there are some silver gunmetal shades in this palette. You have Gunmetal and Creep that remind me or come close to Slanted Dagger and Black Market from this palette. You also have some bronzy golden shades, so you have Smog and Dark Horse that are most comparable to Radar. Then you have Half Baked, which comes close to Bittersweet, but it's a little bit more of a yellow gold. And then we have Buck, which is not quite as deep as Whiskey in this palette. Next up we have the NAKED2 palette on top. And again, there's that half-baked shade that is comparable to Dirty Sweet. We also have Chopper, which I think comes close to Dirty Sweet as well. In this palette, I think Snakebite comes close to Radar. Not quite exactly the same shade, but they're close. Suspect is again close to Dirty Sweet, but Dirty Sweet's a little bit more golden. YDK is also a comparable shade to Dirty Sweet. We also have Busted, which looks a little similar to Smolder, but Busted is more brown, bronzy, while Smolder is definitely a purple. And yeah, those are, let's see, I think Pistol and Verve come close to Armor, but Armor is a repeat shade, so it doesn't have to be that unique as far as I'm concerned. Next we have NAKED3, which is probably the least comparable. I don't see a lot of shades jumping out at me as similar. The only one is probably Strange, which looks a little bit like 13 in the palette. And let's see, anything else? Factory could be a little bit close to Radar, and then Mugshot could be a little bit similar to Armor again. The shade Blackheart is definitely more deep cranberry versus Smolder, so that's where the similarities for these two end. I also went ahead and grabbed my Urban Decay Naked Basics 2 palette, and we'll see that Skimp and Stark are probably the closest to Combust in this palette. The other shades, let's see here, Undone may be a little bit close to Password, but not quite. It's definitely more of a deeper taupey brown shade. Now let's go ahead and look at the Vice 2 palette. Again, the shade that's repeated here is Radar, but they look pretty different. I think Radar looks a little bit more richly pigmented with more of a bronzy hue to it in the Vice 2 palette versus in the Naked Smoky palette. I also have the black palette here, which had smoky shades in it. It's discontinued, it's no longer available, but it's good for comparison. Barracuda probably looks closest to Dagger, and the purple one, Jet, I don't see too much similarities between that and Smolder, because Jet looks a little more purple in this palette. So last up we have the Smoked palette, which was probably the dead giveaway to what Urban Decay was planning when this palette went on sale at ULTA, on UrbanDecay.com, on Sephora. It just flew off the shelves because they were selling it for $15 and it went down to $10 at one point, and I ended up getting this guy almost free with my ULTA points. So this one was quite a bargain for me, and I love this. Seeing this palette, I was like, I really want it, but I wasn't willing to pay the price at the time, and I'm glad I got it on sale. But this one, you'll see Mushroom jumps out to me as looking similar to Armor. Backdoor is a deeper shade than Whiskey, and it's a deeper shade than Password, but they look like a mix of the same shade, although Password looks the closest. Blackout is a flat matte black, so it's not that similar to Black Market, but it's a black, so what do you expect? I mean, it's just a black. You have Barlust, which looks similar to Radar. You have Freestyle, which looks close to Combust, and Kinky is a little bit more Yellow Ivory than 13. And then the purple is Rockstar. It looks similar to Smolder, but we don't know until we swatch it. Asphalt here is deeper than Slanted, and it's lighter than Dagger, but we'll swatch and see how it goes. Alright, so let's get into swatching. The first one I want to do is Radar, which is a repeat shade from the Vice 2 palette. So this is from the Vice 2 palette, this is from the Naked Smoky palette. As I suspected, the Vice palette looks a little bit more bronzy, and the Smoky palette is a little bit more of a taupe shade. You will see those shades there. They're not really identical, but they do have a similar formula. This is the Vice 2 one, which is a little bit more bronzy, and then this is the Smoky one. Now let's do Mushroom and Armor, which look pretty close from the Smoked palette and the Smoky palette. So this is Mushroom, this is Armor. Mushroom is more pigmented, it's softer, it's creamier than Armor, but they're very similar looking shades, as you can see. Armor has those micro glitters in there, which makes it like a Fallout Fiasco, but those two shades there. Now we have Slanted and Asphalt. As you can see, Asphalt is definitely deeper. I also grabbed Dagger from the palette, so you'll see those three shades. I feel like Dagger and Asphalt come the closest, those two shades there. This is Dagger, that's Asphalt. So here we have 4 of the bronzy shades. This first one is Backdoor from the Smoked palette. This here is Whiskey from the Naked Smoky palette. This is Barlust from the Smoked palette. And then this one is Radar from the Naked Smoky palette. Not very similar shades, as you can see. Next I'll do more smoky shades. Here we have Rockstar from the Smoked palette versus Smolder. As you can see, Smolder is deeper. Then we have Black Market from the Naked Smoky, and then Blackout from the Smoked palette. Again, you can see Smolder is deeper than Rockstar, and then for the black shades, one is matte and one is more satin. And then here we have the lighter shades from the palettes. We have Combust and 13 from the Naked Smoky palette, and then we have Kinky and Freestyle from the Smoked palette. So there you have it. I think these shades almost look identical on my skin, but for the Smoked palette, these two shades, they're a little bit more pigmented, a little bit more yellow undertone in peach versus these two, which is more of a white ivory and a peachy brown shade, but I think they look pretty damn close. Next up, let's do the black palette, which should be pretty easy. We have Barracuda and Dagger, which look the most similar. Then we have Black Dog and Black Market. So here we have those 4 shades again. So as you can see, Barracuda is deeper and has shimmer versus Dagger. And then we have a matte black versus a satin black. And then of course we have the 2 purples that don't look similar at all, but I will still swatch them anyway. So we have Jet and Smolder. Let's go ahead and do the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette. Here we have the shades Skimp and Stark from the Basics palette. And then we have Combust and 13 from the Naked Smoky palette. So these are definitely different shades. The Naked Basics palette has more yellow toned and peachy toned neutral light blend-in shades and highlight shades versus the Naked Smoky palette. This one's definitely more of a pinky ivory, and this one's more of a pinky neutral shade. And then I also wanted to swatch Undone versus Password. This is Undone from the Basics palette, and then this is Password. Undone is definitely deeper, but they're similar shades. They're good for blending in the crease area. The Basics palette is a good one just to supplement any of your palettes in your collection, including the Naked palettes. Let's go ahead and do the NAKED3 palette, which is not even close, I think, to any of the shades in the Smoky palette, but I'll swatch them anyway. Here we have the shade Factory from the NAKED3 palette versus Radar from the Naked Smoky palette, not close. Then we have the shade Mugshot, which is probably my favorite shade from the NAKED3, versus Armor from the Naked Smoky. So as you can see, these shades are definitely not even close to each other. So here we have Black Heart and Dark Side from the Urban Decay NAKED3. Then we have Smolder and Password from Naked Smoky. So there you have it. Again, they're not very close to each other or similar at all. So now we're getting down to it. Let's do Naked, the original palette, and let's see what shades we want to do here. Radar and Dark Horse. So here we have Radar from the Smoky palette and Dark Horse from the Naked 1. And then we have Gunmetal from Naked 1 versus Dagger. Yeah, these aren't really similar either. I think Sin and High are probably similar shades. And then we can do Dirty Sweet with Half Baked. So here we have Sin from the original Naked palette versus High from the Smoky palette. And we have Dirty Sweet from the Smoky palette versus Half Baked. So here you have those 4 shades. They look very similar, but High is definitely more shimmery than Sin. And then Half Baked and Dirty Sweet look very similar too, but Half Baked is a little bit more yellow gold, but they are very similar shades. So let's go ahead and do Creep. And oh, Creep is not even a black. So here we have the shade Creep from the original palette versus Black Market. I didn't even realize that Creep isn't really a black. And then we have the shade Hustle from the Naked 1 versus Smolder. Again, not even similar at all. Yeah, these are definitely not similar shades at all. I think we can move on to the last palette and see what similar shades we have here. So here we have Dirty Sweet from the Naked Smoky Palette versus Half Baked from the NAKED2 palette. This is a repeat from the original Naked palette. Then we have the shade Radar and Snakebite. This is Snakebite from the NAKED2, and then this is Radar. Those look very similar as well. So it seems like Half Baked from the NAKED2 palette is definitely a lot more shimmery and gold than from the original palette, and versus Dirty Sweet, it's not even similar at all. And then we have the two other shades. We have Snakebite, which is a deeper, more bronzy shade, versus Radar, which is coming off as more of a definite taupey shade. We'll do the shade Pistol and Armor, Busted, and Smolder. So now here we have Pistol from the NAKED2 versus Armor from Naked Smoky, and then we have Busted from NAKED2 versus Smolder. So you'll see these shades aren't really that similar at all. So Armor is a bit more of a silver taupe versus Pistol, and it has those micro shimmer in it, which I don't really love. But oh my gosh, if you have NAKED2, Pistol is a gorgeous shade. And then Busted is definitely a deep bronze versus Smolder, which is definitely a purple. So last up, I'll do Foxy from the NAKED2 versus 13 from the Naked Smoky versus Password from Smoky Palette and Tease from the NAKED2. These I don't think are close either. You can see Foxy is definitely more of a yellowed ivory. And I'm not going to swatch the blacks because Black Market, again, is a shimmery black, and then Blackout is a matte black, and I think we get the gist with that. So those are the final shades. So hopefully you guys made it through this video and it was helpful to you guys to see the shades in the palette and similar shades from existing palettes on the market from Urban Decay. And if you did enjoy the video, definitely hit a thumbs up, like, favorites, and share with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button because I would truly appreciate it. And as usual, I'll leave a full list of, what am I leaving a list of? I don't know. I'm gonna leave information in the description box as well as links to my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages where you can follow me along. And until my next video, which will be very soon, I'll talk to you. Take care, guys. I love you. Bye.